At the age of 19, Sachin Tendulkar was already established as one of international cricket's fastest rising stars. He'd scored test hundreds in England, Australia and South Africa and smashed records wherever he'd wielded a bat. But it wasn't until the winter of 1993 and the arrival of England upon India's shores that he finally got the chance to make his mark where it really mattered, at home in front of an adoring Indian public.
Before that, I think he played a test match against Sri Lanka, one-off. But everybody was keen to see him, and I think he took the headlines. He still does. He takes the headlines even before the start of the match, during the match, and at the end of the match. So that kind of a response and attention started from then on.
It was a great atmosphere, and obviously wherever Sachin went he was treated as a god, really, and the way he coped with that as well, not only then but how he's coped throughout his career, is a credit to him.
The two sides hadn't met on Indian soil for 8 years, and while England had shaded the last encounter 1-0, this time around the odds seemed firmly stacked in India's favour.
It was funny because before the tour we would have been favourites to go and do quite well there, because we were improving side under Graham Gooch. Gooch himself was top of the world rankings at that stage, and we had in Embury and Tufnell two spinners that we thought, when we play against them in English conditions, we regard them as good spin bowlers, and we thought that our spinners would really cause a few problems for India's batsmen. Maybe that was naivety from people like myself who'd never toured India before, but it was clear when we got there that really Embury and Tufnell weren't going to cause them 1 inch of a problem.
We had Kapil Dev, we had Sidhu, we had Prabhakar, Kiran More. We had such a batting lineup was so strong, and all-round performance, like Kapil Dev and Manoj used to just bowl. We had only 2 fast bowlers, and then the trio, Anil Kumble, Rajesh Chauhan and Venkatpati Raju.
It was England's inability to master India's spin trio that cost them the first test in Kolkata. The home side romped to a thumping 8-wicket win, with 2 very old friends, perhaps fittingly, administering the coup de grace.
It was like a dream come true for me, and he was also happy to see me. Because both of us, coach was also happy, and the entire country was happy because our buddies.
We said yes, from now on the real cricket starts, because at times we didn't even call, we just looked at each other and we just ran. So there was no need of calling at times.
He went ahead and I was left behind, but when I came back, we were together and we were very happy to see each other in the same team.
As India celebrated and the nation licked its lips in anticipation of a similar result in the second test, Graham Gooch's beleaguered England side were finding things a little harder to digest.
Sort of throughout the trip we seemed to have people dropping down with viruses and that, and I think it started early on in the trip, and really just throughout the trip everybody seemed to have this sort of virus that was passing amongst the guys, and nobody seemed to be really fully fit at any stage, and you really need to be you expect to get illish, but this virus was just hanging around. It wasn't a very nice one, and I think on a number of occasions we were picking teams that people perhaps shouldn't have been playing because they weren't fit enough. I mean, it was really quite a hard trip for that reason, and you need everybody to be fit on that trip.
Things quite literally came to a head on the eve of the Chennai test. With Captain Gooch laid low by that infamous Madras prawn, Alex Stewart took charge of an England side in disarray. India duly smashed 560 in their first innings, and while Navjot Singh Sidhu ground his way to a 3rd test century, the match and the occasion belonged to just one man.
I thought I'd experienced a lot in my life, with sort of playing at Lords at full houses, Melbourne, Sydney, in the Caribbean, South Africa. But I'd not experienced anything quite like playing or watching cricket in India. I mean, when Tendulkar came out, the whole place just erupted. It was an unbelievable experience to sort of be in an Indian cricket ground when Tendulkar was scoring runs.
Wherever we put the field, he would still find a gap. And if we brought long on up to mid on, he'd hit it over long on, or vice versa. But the way he just pierced the infield, for someone to say so young, was quite amazing.
You know, he played so straight, and the crowd, you know, the noise from the crowd and the support he got was unbelievable.
He was a complete player. He played the spinners so well. I mean, that was the other thing. It was one of those pitches he was going to turn a bit. And if I remember rightly, there were 1 or 2 holes in it as well by the end. And you know, he just seemed to play them so well.
At that time, he was a lot more extravagant. You know, he used to probably take on the spinners a lot earlier, you know, when they first came on. And I remember Tufnell and I think Bury having a tough time.
He was just looking forward for that 100, you know. I was so eager, and when he got that 100, we all stood up, and I still remember he always shows the bat to everybody, but that one glimpse, he always does it for me. He always shows the bat to me. So I was so happy. I just stood up and just kept on clapping.
Everyone rose and gave me a brilliant applause, and it was one of the best moments, obviously, because getting your first 100 in front of, you know, Indian people, Indian soil is always special.
Sachin's 165 in Chennai was his highest test score to date, and pretty much signalled the end of England's resistance in the 3-test series. For India, the long wait was over. The boy from Bandra had brought his best back home, and an entire nation rejoiced. In April of 1993, India's teenage tyro Sachin Tendulkar turned 20. Respected the world over and adored at home, Sachin's growing stature soon saw him installed as India's vice-captain for July's 3-test tour of Sri Lanka. Far from being overawed, it was a role he revelled in.
The 3rd test, the last stage, just maybe around tea time, Azhar went inside, and I captained the side for about hour and a half. It was a great experience. I said, okay, fine, now I'm the captain, I need to do a lot of things and get it right and try and get wickets and this and that, like any captain would do. And I was really excited. That was the first time I captained.
Suitably inspired, India's newly crowned vice-captain went on a run spree. His 5th Test 100 in Sri Lanka swiftly followed by a 6th. However, as prolific as he was in Test cricket, India's inability to exploit Sachin's talent in the one-day game was a growing source of frustration. Sachin was convinced he had the answer.
I remember in 1994 when we were in New Zealand in Auckland, Sidhu had a stiff neck, so we were just discussing who should open the innings, and I told Azhar, and Wadekar was our coach then, I told both of them, why don't you give me just one chance? I know that I can go out and play some big shots in the first 15 overs, and I'm very confident. Please just try. If it doesn't happen, fair enough, you know, because anyway we are going with some irregular opener. Why not me then? You know, we'll try it. And I went there in the middle and I scored 82 of 48 balls, and things turned around from then.
His one-day woes were over. Sachin quickly rattled off match-winning hundreds against Australia and New Zealand, and by the winter of 1994 was arguably the world's most complete batsman. Arguably, however, was the operative word, and as Courtney Walsh's talented West Indies side touched down on Indian soil in the October of 1994, they brought with them the promise of a classic confrontation.
It was pitched in as a Lara versus Sri Lanka series. Lara had come back from West Indies with the huge triple hundred behind him. It was just then that he had broken the record of carry field overs. He came back, he came to India, and obviously the media really started pitching in between the two greats.
Two young, outstanding batsmen, and sort of, shouldering the responsibility of the team entirely on their own.
I mean, although cricket is a team game, you have the two heroes and, the icons of cricket, Sachin and Lara. I mean, it was billed as Sachin versus Lara, but I don't think Sachin looked at it that way.
It was India versus West Indies, and if both of us failed in a particular game, didn't mean that the competition was over. We still had 20 other players, fighting in that game. So, it was just that hype was created.
Despite Sachin's reservations, for his loyal legion of fans, what followed only deepened their faith in him. A third one-day 100 added gloss to India's domination of the one-day internationals, but it was his test best 179 in Nagpur that realised India's dreams.
Nagpur, it was his first. I think he crossed that 165, and it was a fantastic knock because they had a good bowling attack. Although the wicket was a good one, Nagpur is always a good wicket for batting, but they had a great bowling attack at that time. Courtney, then you had Kenneth Benjamin, and it was a good bowling attack.
It's never easy to relax when you face the fast bowlers. He got a fantastic 100. He really wanted to get 100. I think that is the first century against the West Indies.
I remember I was batting on 82 or something, and the second new ball was taken, and I managed to hit 4 boundaries of Kenneth Benjamin, and went to 98, took a single, went on to 99, and Courtney Walsh was bowling, and I had to play 3 balls, and I said, what is he going to do now, this ball? I just started thinking. I said, if he bowls a short ball, that means he's just trying to keep me on 99 at this end as long as possible. And he bounced, and I really got it right. It landed 15 rows inside in the stands, hit him for a 6, and I was really happy about that I was expecting something, and that happened, and I actually connected quite nicely. So I remember I punched in the air, and my reaction actually told everything. So I was really excited and very happy.
While Sachin's plans were falling into place on the field, off it he was finding things a little harder to predict. So the next 12 months found India's hottest property putting his intensely private life in order. First up on the agenda, a very private yet public affair.
I'd known Anjali for quite some time, 5 years before that, and said, okay, fine. I mean, it's all about knowing each other well enough, and I knew that yes, I was always going to marry her. From day one I knew, and I said, okay, now the time has come.
2 tumultuous years in the helter-skelter life of Sachin Tendulkar had come to a benign and quiet end. For the undisputed darling of Indian cricket, though, the hiatus was brief. Sachin Tendulkar's toughest challenge to date lay just around the corner. Sachin Tendulkar, the '96 World Cup was a tournament of fluctuating fortunes. While he excelled, scoring more World Cup runs than any man in history, his beloved India limped to an ugly and untimely exit in Kolkata. Sachin's heroics hadn't gone unnoticed though, as India embarked on a 3-test tour of England. Just weeks after that wild night at Eden Gardens, the spectre of Sachin was already haunting the home side.
Sachin was obviously by then the kingpin in that team and the main one you talk about. Number one player, the best player, you're always looking to dismiss him early, and the number of hours watching videos of all the Indian players, but in particular Sachin Tendulkar, as to where he scores, where his strengths are, where he's comfortable, little areas that you think you might just have a chance. I remember in the first test at Edgbaston that Dominic Cork had a bit of success against him, bowling quite straight, and we left mid-on open and trying to encourage Sachin to play just a little bit across the line, and Corky got him out in that first test at Edgbaston, but after that he got a lot of runs.
He certainly did. Sachin responded in the second innings with a gutsy 122, and though England drew first blood in the series, their Tendulkar-fueled nightmares were fast becoming a reality. The second test at Lord's saw Sourav Ganguly glide gracefully onto the international stage, but the spirit of Sachin returned in the third and final test. Battling to save the series at Trent Bridge, Teacher and Tyro combined with devastating effect. Ganguly was good, but Sachin was better.
One of those players, his bat, when he's on form, his bat looks about 12.5 inches wide, and you just think, well, how are you going to get the ball past him?
Nice stroke.
Let's pick some runs there, that'll be 4.
Slower ball, same result.
From a cricketing sense, it was a delight to watch. You always enjoy watching great players play. People would find that maybe difficult if you're on the opposition, but there are passages of play, particularly in Test match cricket, where you just enjoy the cricket, and any time that Tendulkar spends any time at the crease, you would enjoy the cricket.
And they've crossed for 1. They might go back for a second. They do. Tendulkar collects the 2 that gives him 100 here at Trent Bridge. First Indian batsman to score 100 at Trent Bridge in Nottingham. A wonderful innings from the master himself. It was a breathtaking innings, and while Sachin's 10th Test 100 couldn't inspire India to a series-levelling win, his growing influence on the Indian team off the field was being keenly felt.
He was always there, if you needed advice or if you needed a chat or talk about the game. I still remember him telling me, that probably the first 15-20 minutes when you make your Test debut will be quite difficult, but once you get used to that, it's just a question of getting used to that kind of atmosphere, and then it'll seem like it's just another game, where you compete against a bowler. So I think, I took that into me when I went to make my debut, that, so it's all right to be nervous for the first 15-20 minutes, and after that you'll relax. So yeah, I think it was a big influence.
I would talk cricket continuously, and I used to do that. I mean, otherwise normally I'm a quiet person, but when I go on the ground, then I just want to discuss as many things as possible, and it comes naturally. I mean, I don't try to put it on, or it just happens naturally, and I think that's the best way to deal with it.
If Sachin's innate influence was a mystery to him, to India's selectors it was unmistakable, and as they convened to appoint a successor to Captain Mohammad Azharuddin in the August of '96, there was only one outstanding candidate.
Sachin was doing so well that time, so he was number 1 batsman in the team, and then we all thought that best player should be a captain. It's not anything against Azhar. Azhar was okay, but it's all the selectors think that he will be the best candidate on that moment.
It was a signal honour for such a young man, and one that Sachin eagerly embraced.
I was really excited. Said this is what any cricketer in India dreamed of, leading the country, and I was very, very excited and thrilled. I said, okay, now I'm going to do a lot of things and this and that, and I had planned. I mean, like any other person, I mean, you have your plans and you want all the things to fall in the right place.
While India rejoiced at the news of Sachin's appointment, however, the reaction from overseas was a little more guarded.
At the time of 23, I think he was too young for the job, surely, because he was emerging as a best player in the world, and then there was extra added pressure. And mind you, cricket captaincy is a very, very difficult job.
It's not easy captaining anywhere in Pakistan, India or Sri Lanka, because there's so much politics, so much things happening. It's so much expectations.
I thought it was a mistake. I thought at the time it was a mistake. I've never changed my view. It was a mistake. We made Ian Botham the captain of England roughly around the same time, wasn't he? About 24. Well, and at the time, he's crazy, man. Absolutely potty.
I was a little surprised that he was elevated to that position, given the enormous pressure he's under anyway. And I just felt that it might detract from his personal contribution to the side. You know, just when you've got the little genius like that, just let him go out and do his thing without overburdening him with captaincy.
Sachin's first few months in charge effectively silenced the doubters. India swaggered to victories over Pakistan in Toronto, Australia in a one-off test at home, and finished the year by lifting the Titan Trophy. India's rookie captain was, it seems, a success.
People were talking about the age, he's young, he's still in his 20s. I don't think that was right. It was about how much time you've spent at the international level, and I think he had spent a long time. 7 years is a long time, so he was absolutely ready to take over.
Everybody knew what to do. Everybody knew their job, what they have to do. He doesn't have to tell them again and again. So that's how, that's how he led the side. Even for Mumbai, whenever he leads Mumbai also, everybody knows their job.
It wasn't as if I had no experience at all of captaining the side. I was always confident of doing that job. And then I was vice captain for almost 3 years before I became the captain. So I was pretty sure of it.
At 23 years of age, Sachin Ramesh Tendulkar's incredible story scanned like the pages of a Bollywood script. Cricket's wealthiest man, he was a global superstar and Indian pride personified. For the nation's newly crowned captain, though, the greatest challenge of all had only just begun.